I'm Dr. Evelyn. I'm here with the wonderful Melanie Davis, producer and publisher of my book. She's also the CEO of Triumph Press.
Evelyn, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm really excited about being here and just about all the things that you're doing.
I'm excited to have you. Like I've told you on so many occasions, Melanie, I am honored that we cross paths.
It was definitely a good thing. But, I think that your audience will really benefit from knowing a lot more about you, especially as you become someone they listen to every week, to really understand your background and your expertise and how you became Dr. Evelyn.
Okay, here's my backstory. First of all, I would like to let the audience know that I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I came from poverty. I came from poverty, and also I didn't know, I was not aware of toxic and abusive relationships. I got involved in one as a teenager and again when I got married. That's where the advocacy came in because I went through a divorce and I had no voice. In my opinion, the system practiced corruption and injustice against me like it's happened to millions of other people that I'm aware of.
And that's what's so important, really. If you were just a rare occurrence, right? If you just happened to have some really bad men in your life that abused you and it was rare, I don't think the need for this show would be as extreme as it is. But the truth is that domestic violence, abuse, family court corruption is rampant. It's an epidemic. And there really is a need for a platform where people can come and they can learn what to watch for and how to protect themselves and just how to get through this gauntlet that you've had to run already in your life. So let's go back and take a little time to get to know Evelyn. So I know you mentioned that you had a toxic upbringing and you've had some abusive relationships, but let's kind of build on what you've been through. If you don't mind, can we go back into your childhood a little bit and just find out some of the things that happened and what you've learned from that you have to share right now?
In my childhood, I can say that my mother was a protector, but I didn't grow up under the best circumstances.
Mm.
Because we lived in poverty, we did not have access, I think, to therapy, healthy things, being healthy and things like that. We could not afford those things. So in our childhoods, we just had to learn how to cope with whatever was happening or whatever we had to endure. But as an adult, I wasn't an adult. Let me say this too. At the age of 16, I became a parent
Right.
and I wanted to break the generational curse within my family of living in poverty. I'm not advising anybody to become a teenage parent. I'm not saying that. I'm telling you about my life, Dr. Evelyn. I became a teenage parent and I knew that my child,
What was the cause of you having to really be the one to step up and be responsible?
I'm an older child, I had a lot of responsibility growing up. And what caused me to have to step up is I had another mouth to feed, which is my child that I had when I was 16 years old. And I dedicated my life to raising my child in a healthy environment. I would like to say this too. My child came from my teenage abusive relationship. As a matter of fact, I had two children in that relationship, and one of my children had to be adopted out because of domestic violence, and I was not able to care for the child.
Yeah. So
So
I think it's
domestic
safe to say as a child, you grew up, you did not know about abuse and you didn't
I did not know
recognize
what abuse was.
that how
I
you
was
were being
not
treated was
aware.
not okay. Yeah. So do you
It
want to
is
talk a little
not
bit about
okay.
what did that look like? What did you not recognize at the time? And how would you advise 16-year-old young women today to be able to avoid the pitfalls that you fell into?
I would say 16-year-old young men and women now, it is not okay for someone to physically abuse you, mentally abuse you, or number one, try to control you. When you enter a relationship where that is happening, that is bad news.
So
Domestic violence,
sometimes mental abuse, emotional abuse is not easy to know. You know what I mean? Like, you can say, "Don't let them do that to you," but it's very subtle. Can you describe what that looks like so that they understand exactly what you're saying not to
When you
allow?
start losing yourself, I can just make this as an example. Say you want to wear your hair in a certain way, and
Mhm.
you have this partner that does not want you to wear your hair like that, and you change it. That is a bad sign. That is an open door to abusive behaviors that I can almost guarantee you will happen later on in that relationship if you choose to stay in that relationship with that person.
That's really helpful. Can you give a few more examples in case, there's other things they can identify and go, "Oh, that's happening to me."
Okay. Just say you want to wear a skirt, not saying anything that's too short, and the person does not want you to wear it. That is a sign of control. And you may
Mhm.
lose your autonomy and your ability to make decisions about your life. But let me say one thing. I know I forgot about this right here. If you have a close family and this person wants to always make excuses and keep you away from your family, that's a bad sign.
Isolating you.
Yes.
Isolating you with how they control you. Yeah. So with the abuse, did it start subtly and grow into physical abuse, or how quickly did physical abuse enter the relationship when you were in your teenage?
When I was a teenager, that physical abuse started right away.
Oh, okay.
And from what I
Mhm.
understand, my first footstool abused other people that he was involved with. So that person was known for as an abuser in the community.
I'm glad you used the word footstool because I know that's how you refer to your abusers in your book. But for those who are watching that haven't read your book yet, can you describe what you mean by footstool?
I describe my first and second abusers as footstools because I had to allow my mind to be changed, even though those were bad experiences. My description of a footstool is they're only elevating me. Hey, I'm on advocacy radio, the host today, because of those two situations that I went through. So they only allowed me to step up. That's why they're described as footstools in the book.
Can you describe for us a little more, and obviously don't use the name, but just describe the person and the relationship of your first footstool?
I can say that we were young, and I really can't answer why they behaved the way they did. I know that I was kind of isolated and I wanted to step out on my own, not being aware of what abuse was. And I went through a lot because I
Okay.
got away from my family. I walked away from my family at a young age and wanted to go and do my own thing. And it was
Mhm.
detrimental when I made the decision to do that.
So was your first footstool the same age as you? Were you both in high school together or?
My first footstool was a little bit older than myself, older than
Mhm.
me.
I think that's common. I think a lot of times young women who are abused, especially emotionally, it's happening because they're being targeted by older men or older young men. How did you meet? And what was the tactic he used to kind of pull you in and away from your childhood home in your life?
Well, I was hanging out in the neighborhood. I had a good friend that I live with, and I want to say for the record, I live with her and her family. They did not approve of this. This was
Mm.
something that I decided to do on my own. Those people loved me, and I still love them to this day. They are my family. They're like family to me. But anyway, I was with them. Life was going good. I had just gotten back from Baltimore and I was fresh meat on the block. I was a
Mhm.
fresh face on the block and I was pursued by my first footstool. That's how it happened.
Yeah. How long were you with him?
I would say no more than 5 years, even though people think that we were together for a long period of time. We were not together for a long period of time because a lot of that time I was fighting for my life, trying to get out of the relationship because it was unhealthy. And I did not want to end up going to prison, trying to protect myself. And I knew that my child needed me.
Yeah, well,
So
I would say 5 years at that age, I mean, from 16 to what, 21? That's a significant amount of time
it
through
is,
some
and it
really important
affected
years.
me, like, socially because those years I did not get to develop in a healthy environment, and it's like I can talk to some of my friends now. They ask me, "Do you know this person?" I'm like, "No, I don't know that person." And we all are the same age, but I was fighting for my life. I didn't get to know my peers, many
Yeah.
of my peers, because of that abusive relationship. And I wanted to go into the army. I was intelligent. I
Mhm.
had a good, decent life, but when I met my first footstool, my life was derailed. It was derailed.
Yeah. And that's something that I think is really important for people to understand just how powerful abusers can be at controlling and redirecting your life in negative ways. And you were being abused, you said, pretty much from the beginning, but you were still with him for 5 years. And that's common. A lot of times people will stay in abusive relationships, even dangerous ones, for years. Do you want
Yes,
to explain why that phenomenon and what can be done?
different circumstances, and normal people that have not experienced abuse should never judge someone that's in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
If you are not in that relationship, you are not there, you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening. You have to leave the autonomy up to that individual, because that individual
Mhm.
knows that abuser, while someone is standing on the outside judging that victim. If victims leave at some certain point, they know if an abuser will take their life or not. And
Right.
sometimes they don't leave because they can be unalived.
It's too
And if you
dangerous.
don't know that
Mhm.
abuser, just don't judge that victim because you don't know what's going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. I think it's really important. A lot of times people say, "Oh, why don't they just leave?" I mean, it just without having the abuse, the threat, obviously, to your life. I think the other thing too that arises is that over time, when you're so emotionally and mentally abused, you really aren't capable of thinking clearly.
You're
And they
not.
create a, which I know you talk about this in some of you've talked about this a lot on your YouTube channel, the trauma bond, where you're connected to them in a very biological way through the emotions and the different chemicals that get released through their abuse, and then they love bomb and they abuse, and this back and forth. You're become addicted to the person like a drug, and
And
it
then the
really isn't
Stockholm
easy to break that addiction.
the psychological phenomenons, the Stockholm syndrome
Right.
that people develop where they want to protect the abuser.
Mhm.
But this is not something that somebody can actually control. This is human nature. And people don't understand that they have developed that in some situations, because I had developed it before. Even when I met my second footstool, I had not healed. I thought that I was healed. I was a single parent providing for my child. We had everything that we needed. And then I met another abuser. I
That
met
is an
my
important point too. Yes.
Yes. I had not
Yeah.
healed. I had not gone to counseling. I thought I was okay. I did not recognize the red flags again. They were subtle, and I felt like something was wrong, but I kept saying, "Well, I'm older now and I know that this will change. This will change."
You
But
just
it's
thought
time.
time, yeah, that time had fixed
Yes.
it when that's
And
just not.
sometimes time does not heal all wounds. When you do not address those wounds, you will still carry around the same hurt and the same unawareness that you experienced from years back. And that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
On our next conversation, we'll talk about actually how to heal. We'll get into that more as to how to heal and get to know yourself and live in solitude after you've been through so much trauma.